Okay, hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Bold Strokes Books Bookathon. I am Sandy Lowe, Bold Strokes Books Senior Editor, and this panel is Judge a Book by its Cover. So we're going to be talking all about book covers. And I just opened up the chat. I know we've been having some problems with people not being able to post in the chat, so you should be able to if you would like to. All right. Okay, so on this awesome panel, we have Elena Abbott, Nance Sparks, Kelly Wacker, JJ Hale, Nicole Stiling, and me. And just to start off, I would love for you to introduce yourself by way of letting the readers know what genre you write in, because I feel like that has quite a significant impact on your book covers. And a little bit about the book that you have chosen to talk about on this panel, so that the readers have a little bit of a sense of what your book is about when they see your cover. Why don't we start with Elena?
Sure. Hi, I'm Elena Abbott. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in the frozen north of Edmonton, Alberta. Um, I was lucky enough to get two books published last year with Bold Strokes. I write paranormal romance, and the first one that had come out was Pack of Our Own. Um, and then later in October, its sequel, Made of Our Own, had come out. Today, I'm going to be talking about Pack of Our Own and the cover here.
Awesome, thank you. Nance?
Hi, I'm Nance Sparks. I write contemporary romance and romantic blends. And the cover we're going to talk about today is Starting Over, and that is a contemporary romance book. And it came out in May of 2023.
Awesome. Kelly?
Hey, well, let's see, I've got three books with Bold Strokes. The first is a novella, which is historical fiction romance. My second book, the Aspen and Moonlight, is contemporary romance paranormal. So I'm blended. And then even more blended is the book that I'll be talking about in terms of the cover is The Fall Line. And it's really genre subversive. So it's romance, paranormal, thriller, ghost story, and ecofiction. So I'm like checking all the
My
boxes.
goodness. All right, no more books for you because we can't fit any more genres.
I know, right?
It just keeps going up. Nicole, how about you?
I'm Nicole Stiling, and I mostly write romantic blend, crime and suspense, things like that. And today I'll be talking about The Rewind, which is a romantic suspense.
Okay, awesome. And JJ, and just so you know, JJ gave me two options, and I picked Truly Enough, just so you know.
Great. Yeah, so I'm JJ Hale or Jess. I live in Ireland and I write contemporary romance. So the book I'll talk about today is Truly Enough. It's the second in my Truly series, which you'll see back here. So there's Truly Wanted and Truly Enough. And that's contemporary romance that was released last year.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So just to provide a little bit of context for our listeners, tell us a little bit about what it's like working with the publisher on book covers, because I think it can be quite different depending on which publisher you're with, or maybe even if you're self-publishing. So what is it like here at Bold Strokes? What does that process look like? Nicole?
It's actually pretty fun. You get to go and search up images that fit your story, and you send them in, and then you get different cover ideas back with all kinds of fun fonts and things like that, and you get to choose. So it's a great experience. I enjoy that part a lot.
Awesome, good. Phew. It's always a little bit of a risk. Nance, how about you? Anything to add?
It is my favorite part of the process.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It really
as
is.
well. I'm glad.
Because you got to do the blur, but other than that, picking the book cover, I think, is my favorite part because there's so much freedom. If we don't choose something, then obviously you guys will pick something for us, but we have so much freedom of deciding what's on the cover. So I think that is just really key.
Sure. Yeah. The cover is your award for writing the blurb.
There you go.
Elena, how about you? Anything to add?
I like that there's definitely so much room for author input on the cover. Obviously, the more art-minded and specific an author can make their input, the closer to that vision the cover will turn out. I mean, hopefully. Personally, I'm not great at figuring out the cover, so I tend to be pretty open about it and kind of let the artsy folks do their work. But I really do enjoy getting to see what they come up with at the end and gain that multiple choice. It's like, I like this one best.
Yeah, that's fun part. Kelly, JJ, anything to add that hasn't already been said?
I would just add, oh, I'm sorry. Do you want
Oh,
to?
go ahead.
Thanks. I would just add that, part of the process too is there's a form that we fill out. So where we give information about characters and settings and moods and what things look like. And it really is a fun process. I totally echo that. And it's kind of like the frosting on the cake in a way, and but it's also really challenging too, because you have to think about like how your book is going to present itself to the world too.
Yeah. I think the form is great because I think if you were just to get a general, what would you like to see in your cover? I would panic, I wouldn't know what to write, but the form really gives you a kind of direction of what things to consider. I do end up usually on the stock photo site for about 2 days and just scrolling through things. But yeah, I love the kind of options at the end and the way you can maybe change things around or see you like one part of one and one part of another and make it what you want it to be, which is really good.
Yeah, awesome. All righty. So as part of this panel, we are going to show you covers from these guys, and they're going to talk about them. So let's start with Kelly, and I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully this works. All right. Can you all see that? Is it really low?
Yeah, it's actually working.
Okay. Is it big enough or not? I can't
I think
quite
it
see.
looks great.
It
Okay.
looks good to me. Yeah.
I can't see it the way that you can, so. All right, awesome. So Kelly, tell us about this cover. What is like, how did you go about kind of providing the inspiration for this cover? As we've been talking about, authors get a lot of input. What is it that you like about it? How is it relevant to your story?
Yeah. So, one of the things I'll say from the outset too is I'm an art historian. That's something Sandy knows from our conversations, and I'm also I'm a professor in an art department with design. So I work with designers and teach students who are in design too. So I'm kind of particular about things. And even with the novella, I remember, Sandy and I had this conversation. I was looking too closely at some things, like things that weren't going to turn up, when it was, in print or, people were looking at it online. So that's something to think about too, is you always have to think about the output, like what, how people are going to encounter it and what they're going to see. So for me with this book, like I said, it covers a lot of genres. And it especially at the, toward the 3/4 of the way through the book, it starts to shift more toward thriller and things being scary and dark, So, and the other thing about the story is because it's set, on the Cahaba, on and near the Cahaba River, which, is a real place and it's an important part of the story. And it's really, the river is kind of like a character in the story in a lot of ways too. That needed to be there. So for me, it was important that the cover reflect the setting for the story and some of the mood in the story. The thunderstorm that comes through, the severe storm is a pivot, is a kind of a turning point. And the whole reason the character's there is because of these endangered flowers that bloom in the river, which are also real things. And they are, and they're on the cover as well. So that's a little peculiar, I think, in some ways of the, the stormy sky and the lightning bolts and then these flowers there. So one of the things I hope is it evokes a little, there's a little mystery in it, when people look at it, go, what is, kind of what is this about? We had another, I had 2 choices with this, and the other one, I really loved that other choice. And Sandy, I recall you really liked it too. I remember when you presented them to me, you said, I think they're both great. You decide. You were just like, I'm not going to make this decision. And the thing is I really loved that other cover. It was very elegant. But I felt like this one captured the mood a little better. So I think they're both great designs, but this one, tipped toward the story a little better.
Yeah. And I love the illustrated aspects of this cover too. We're going to see some others that are more photographic, but I think the kind of the vector images, the more illustrated look, is able to bring those disparate elements together in a way that wouldn't quite work for a photograph. So very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll see if my luck continues. Nance, you're up next.
All right.
Okay, this cover is very different, very, very different cover. So Nance, tell us about this one. How did you go about, the kind of the inspiration for this cover? I seem to recall that you did choose this image. And tell us how it's relevant to the story, what it means to you.
I've actually chosen all of my covers except one. So I've had the opportunity to find an image that really grabbed the essence of the book. And I like my covers to capture the essence of a scene as well as give a perception of the blurb. So in this one, the first kiss, the first connection happens in a field full of fireflies. So that was the whole premise of this cover, was I wanted fireflies. So I went through and there was 2 different sites that Bold Strokes uses for photos, and one of them they were migrating away from. And this cover was on the one they were migrating away from, and I just could not get over this cover, so I begged. And Sandy was so kind to go, okay, you can have that cover. But it just encapsulates everything I loved about that scene. It like makes the blurb work. It just is everything about that book.
Yeah, I think it really captures the tone of the book too. For sure.
That's a nice title font, by the way. It's got
Oh, thank you.
It has great energy. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, who we got next? Let's go with Elena. And I'm going to start here because I have a great story about Elena's covers that she doesn't know yet.
Uh-oh.
We were working on how many books in this series now? 3 that we've done covers for? 4?
Yeah, the third one. We just did the cover for the third one.
Okay. So I sent Elena a series of options for that cover. And she wrote back very, great feedback, loved all of them, but said, the love interest isn't on the cover, and they're usually on the cover. And so, do you think we can make that work? And I made the mistake of not actually looking at the other covers. And I sent that feedback back to the artist. And the artist was like, what are you talking about? There's only one person on the covers. And she's so confused. And so then I grew a brain cell and looked at the covers and just died laughing because every cover has a woman and a werewolf. And the artist was so confused because she didn't realize that the werewolf was the love interest. So we had a bit of a miscommunication there.
That's amazing.
That was quite funny. But sorry to interrupt with my little anecdote there.
No, not at all.
Tell us about this cover, what it means to you.
It was one of the 3 that had been sent to me, and honestly, I fell in love with it as soon as it was sent. Just the girl with the red hair, the full moon, the wolf. It was just it's not exactly a scene from the book, but it definitely could be. Like, I wanted to write a new scene for the book as soon as I saw this cover. I was just like, I want this to be shown in my writing because I thought it would look so good. I really enjoy the fact that the character's back is to the reader. It kind of allows the reader to still use their imagination for the specifics of what she might look like, but still give a general idea. I don't know. It's just something I would definitely pull off a bookshelf to look at closer if I saw it on a shelf.
Did you have anything in your mind as you were looking at covers, like, because you're writing a series, and series covers are usually branded? Did you have anything in your mind thinking like, okay, are these elements going to work across multiple covers? Anything like that at the time?
Probably, unfortunately, no. I didn't even know if I was gonna manage a second one. At first, I was really worried I wouldn't be able to make it work. I have troubles writing, especially if I was gonna focus on the same characters, which is why I focused on different characters for the sequel. Um, but as soon as they gave me the options for the second one, it was just like, you know what? We got to make sure it looks like the first one, so people can tell it's a series.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Tammy Sydick, I believe, is the artist who did my covers, and she just did an amazing job of making it look very similar.
Awesome. Alrighty. And Nicole.
Yeah.
All right, I love this one too. And this one I think is especially interesting for the font element. So why don't you tell us why you like it, what it means to you?
Yeah, that's what really drew me to this one is I love the font. And I thought the backwards R was just really cool because there's, some twists and turns in this book. So I thought that kind of captured the mood. That's really what draws me to covers in general is the tone. And this one is second chance romance as well as the mystery aspect. So I liked the look of, the woman walking. Is she walking away? Is she walking, toward home again? And I also like how it's almost got a sense of dread, which I like in covers.
Nothing tells the book like a sense of dread, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. I clearly have a type. I have my others here too, which Heart of the Storm and In the Shadow of Darkness. Clearly I like people walking away. But they are, this one is very similar and maybe should have rethought the color, but they are different books and but they do have similar tones. So
yeah. And no, I think they're very different. And we're going to talk about color as well, but you often see similar colors in book covers. Sometimes when we do our advertising, Ruth will do like the whole month's covers, in one big block all next to each other, and they're like all blue or they're all red, or so it's quite funny. All right. And JJ. So this is a series cover too, but this is the middle book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us about it. I love this cover.
I love it too. It's definitely one of my favorite, probably, of all of them. I just think for a few reasons, like the intimacy of the characters, I think is a big thing for me. The pose kind of encapsulates them. The characters look very similar to what I had described in the books, even before looking for the cover. So that was one draw for me. But just I think the way they're posed and everything works very well for the tone of the story. And again, like Nicole was saying, I think the tone for me is a big thing on the covers. And then I really like the coloring. So in this story, Robin is a firefighter, and I just think the red kind of stands out, and with the blurb and everything, it was the first kind of thing that came to me with the coloring of it. And I actually, so this, there's a lot of photos with these same models from the same photo shoot. So I went through loads of them, looking at them, and just the whole vibe of the shoot I thought was really great. Like the models in general, I bought some of them from the same one as well to download for like advertising later and stuff, because it's the same people and you can use them in different ways. But this one just stood out straight away. I thought it, captured everything very well for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And that's a great trick too. If you're doing series covers and you have the same characters, like the same protagonists for your series, it really helps the publisher or yourself, if you're publishing your own book, to do what JJ said and find a photo shoot where there's lots of different variations of the same people, and then you can use them across all your covers and have them look different. So insider trick there. All right, so we've talked about what you guys like about your covers. I'm interested in what readers like about covers, because covers are primarily a marketing tool. Hopefully they will help sell your book to the reader. So I'm going to have our authors tell us some feedback maybe that they've received, what readers like about covers. But we would also like to know from you, if you want to pop in the chat, what is it that appeals to you in a cover, and give us some of your insights as well. That would be super helpful. Let's start with Kelly.
Well, I'm really
Feedback from readers.
I'm really glad you asked our viewers to chime in on that, because I'm really curious. You know, we've
Yeah.
got 43 people, which is great. And honestly, I mean, the most feedback I've gotten is from people that I'm saying, hey, you know, people like, you know, friends, you know, and when you know, when I'm in that process and I show it to them, what do you think about this? You know, and my wife, you know, get feedback. But I don't have a lot of information back from the readers themselves. Like the comments I get from readers are usually about the story,
Hmm.
you know, not about the cover. So I don't have a lot to add to that, but I'll be really, you know, happy to see what the comments are.
Okay, that's fair. Nance, how about you? Have you ever gotten feedback from readers on your covers?
I actually have, and it's fun because it's after they've read the book. They're like, "Oh my God, the cover just fits now. It just fits perfectly." So that's been a lot of fun, is just to have the revelation of why I picked the cover I did once they've read the book.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Elena, any feedback you've gotten from readers on covers? What do readers like?
I haven't gotten any feedback except for only one thing comes to mind, a Goodreads review I saw, and their first sentence was, "I'm just going to preface this with I totally hate this cover."
Oh no.
And then they went on and said how good the book was, which, you know, kind of made up for the review, but that first line is stuck in my head.
Does that just crush your soul? You're just like,
A
"Ow!"
little bit. It's just like, oh, and I love it. I thought it was amazing. But I mean, everybody has conflicting opinions on when it comes to covers. Like some people will love it, some people will hate it. They want more symbolism, less symbolism, more characters, less characters. Even the font for the title uh can vary from person to person. So it's really hard to find get good feedback on how to make your covers better, I
Mhm.
find.
Yeah. And don't feel bad. It's actually happened to me as well. I've had people tell me to my face that they have not read my book because they didn't like the cover. So at least that poor viewer read your book. Nicole, how about you? Any feedback from readers about your covers?
The only thing I've really heard is that they like the simplicity, that
Mm.
it's, you know, again, it's just tone and mood, and there's not a whole lot going on, but you know, one focal point.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
JJ?
Um, the only feedback I've gotten, I suppose, was you know, when I was in person, and I could tell people were very drawn to the Truly Enough book straight away. Like when they came to the thing, it was to that one.
Mm.
And I think the coloring kind of stands out, and the, you know, as some people have said, the lighting and stuff. So I think that's good. But like, as you know, has already been said, you can't please everyone. It's like some people say, I hate illustrated covers, and then some people love them, and some people hate people on covers, and some people love them. And I just think you know, there's always going to be that mix. So I think it's more important that you love it because you have to look at it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big, like, obviously it needs to appeal in general to readers, but um you need to like it as well. But I think everyone has different opinions, and it changes, right? Like what's good this year, it will be very different next year. So trying to keep it, I think, as well, something that will last as you know, as much as you can, and don't be too specific with themes that are in, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there is some benefit. I was interested in what you're saying about, you know, selling your book and people being drawn to it. Having two women on the cover, sometimes there is some marketing benefit to that, because it, you know, instantly tells the reader, you know, this is a queer book, this is two women falling in love. And, you know, maybe not the case with some of the other covers. So I always find that interesting, the different reactions to the covers that kind of shout, you know, queer, and the covers that don't. Pros and cons to each, I think. Looks like our audience is posting some awesome comments in the chat too, if folks want to take a look. All right. So yeah, we have a good mix here actually of people know people covers. So let's talk about that because boy, do authors have opinions on people or no people. Um, so tell us which way you fall. Maybe, you know, maybe it's not, maybe you don't feel passionately about it, maybe you don't. And what are the pros and cons of showing your characters' faces, giving your reader an idea of what your character might look like or not? JJ, I always pick you last, so I'm going to pick you first this time.
I don't fall too passionately either way, although I seem to want people on my covers, so that probably tells subconsciously that I do. I think what you were mentioning, Sandy, was kind of big for me in that I really wanted it to be, you know, stand out that this is a romance between, you know, two women, and that was an important thing to me because I guess even, you know, when I was younger and stuff, I just never saw it anywhere. It just wasn't a thing that I saw in front of me. And I just wanted that to be a part of what I write. I think as I keep going, that might change. You know, I mightn't be as strong about it because I have ones there now. And as well with I suppose leaving it to people, whether the faces are there or not. I was a bit worried about that with the Truly Enough one because with Truly Wanted, it was their back, so you kind of, you know, the faces were fine. I was a bit worried with Truly Enough, but they fit so perfectly to the descriptions I'd already described that it just kind of pushed that for me. I was like, no, I want it like that. But I think in general, I don't want it to be too close up unless it fits, you know, what's been described within the book. Because I think people can pick up on those things. You know, they can be like, but that her hair wasn't that color or her face didn't look like that from what you described. So those things are to consider.
Yeah, for sure. Nance, how about you? People or no people?
I actually have both. Out of my 5 releases, I have covers with both. What I try not to do is do faces. I want my reader to be able to imagine the character's face and features as they see them. But I'll do the back of the hair or the back of the body or behind a camera lens, something to hide those features to let the reader draw their own conclusion.
Yeah, that's a good compromise between the two, I think. And we have a lot of authors that do a similar thing. And I think Nicole, your covers are somewhat similar. If you have someone walking away, it's the same kind of thing. You get a sense of the character, but you don't see any specific features. Do you do that on purpose, or you just happen to like that kind of image?
I do, yes. I'm not a huge fan of faces on covers, so I try to stay away from that. For mostly, you know, like Nance said, it's kind of up to the imagination what they look like, and I'm sure, you know, I'll imagine my character is different than someone else would, so I don't want to necessarily put that face to the character.
That's interesting. It's interesting that the face is the part that you don't want to give away. Like the rest of the person is fine, but the face, you know, there's something special and intimate and particular about that readers, you know, kind of come to on their own. That's interesting. Kelly, I don't think you've ever had a person, I can't remember. I don't think so.
Well, sort of. I mean, I echo a lot of the comments here that, you know, my first response is no figures. And then I thought about it. I was like, wait a minute, I have figures on 2 of my book covers. But and you know, my first book though, it's really just like a woman's sort of nose and, you know, sensual mouth and, you know, luxurious hair, you know, you know, it's with this little hint of, you know, sexiness. And Aspen and Moonlight, there's a woman in the kind of in the woods in the distance, but you don't, you know, really get it kind of comes back to that idea of the details of the face. And, you know, as a reader, I mean, I think about, you know, all authors are readers, you know, and as a reader, you know, all of the characters and the places and what things look like and what people look like are, you know, they're in my head. And sometimes, and I find it jarring sometimes when what's in my head and what's on a cover, you know, they don't necessarily match up. At the same time, that's also really exciting when a cover's got little clues to the story and you look, and it makes you look at the cover differently, you know, as you're going through the book or you've completed it. So, but at the same time, I also feel like, figures or no figures really depends on the book and what the book is about, and maybe even the genre too. If I see a wolf and a woman on the cover of a book, that's a clue to me, as to what that, probably what the genre that is. They're two women who are really close together, and it's really intimate view, those are really important, I think, from, to give you a sense of what you might expect from that story. So as much as I have, kind of personal opinions about it, I think sometimes you also have to think about your market too, and your reader.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also have to think about the fact that the reader is going to see the cover before they've read the book, right? So they're not instantly going to get all those cool little things that make sense to someone who's read it. So it still has to do its job of selling the book, even if the reader doesn't get, how cool the cover is, and they get it at some point. So it does double duty there. And Ellen, how about you? Your covers have the turn away thing too. Actually, we have a theme here.
Well, I personally kind of like the turn away or the showing in silhouette or if just from the back, because you don't have the specifics to give to anyone, so it allows them to again use their imagination on maybe what color their eyes are or what exact color their eyes are, like that's talked about in the book probably, but it gives you a little bit of leeway or imagining how that cute smile they have. It leaves a lot of it up to the reader's imagination.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. All right. So we talked a little bit about colors, but let's talk about colors and fonts. Are there some you love that you have across multiple covers? Are there any colors you never want to see on your covers? Does it matter to you what the font looks like? Let's talk about the little elements that are not the central image, and we'll start with Nicole.
I don't have anything specific that I don't want to see. Font is important to me. This one actually, Am I in the Shadow of Darkness? That one's my favorite. I love that. The S's, and it's just really cool looking, I think. But there's nothing specific that I put. It just when the artists come back, that's usually what I'm drawn to first, is how the fonts look, based on the background. So,
Yeah.
nothing specific I don't want to see though.
Yeah. And I think fonts can also indicate the genre, right? And
For sure.
Yeah. I think the reason that those fonts work so well in that particular cover is because they do a great job of telling the reader the genre, as opposed to like the Rewind that's much thicker and bolder. Anyway, I'm getting nerdy.
I love it.
Elena, how about you? Tell us about the all the other things that are not the central image, the colors, the fonts. What do you like to see? Do you have any strong opinions?
Well, I've never seen a font I didn't like, except for Wingdings. If you put Wingdings on a cover, I think you're kind of screwed. Um, but I believe that each color definitely has a reason to be on a cover when it's necessary, except for yellow. I have a vast dislike for yellow. It's plainly my least favorite color. So if a book cover has yellow, it better be there for a good reason, or else I'm gonna put the book back.
Okay, you heard it first.
I feel
Yellow.
so.
I know. I was just saying yellow.
I didn't even realize. I'm so sorry.
And over to Nance Sparks. But I'm gonna say that you couldn't have not used yellow because of
No,
the
you had to with the
fireflies.
fireflies.
And it shows up
That's
very
true.
well. It shows
It
up
does.
very well against the night sky. Sometimes yellow doesn't, but I think it does work.
So if it works well, then definitely pick up the book.
So Nance, since I just picked on you, what do you tell us about colors and fonts? What do you like?
I've actually taken my fonts and I created my name. My name is always in the same font just to make a brand.
Yep.
But my covers, like starting over, I love this font, the way it swirls. But then Secret Sanctuary is more block because that's how it depends on how it fits the book.
Yeah.
But I'm very particular about my name being that block because if somebody looks at a book and it's that Nance Sparks block, they know it's just my work. So
Yeah, yeah, it's a great way to, to brand your books.
Mhm.
And then you get to use it on your website and, all kinds of things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. JJ, how about you? You have similar fonts too on your series covers.
Yeah, so the three books, the third one's not out yet, but they all have the same fonts for the titles and different colors. So I like that as a way to kind of tie them in, but show that they're different. I think coloring for me is big in terms of the mood of the book. For some reason, I tie it in with, like, the mood and the tone, and also I think it says a lot about like the season and stuff. Like when the book is set, it can, depending on what you're showing in the background and stuff. So I think colors can be really important. It can say a lot without saying it.
Mm.
And then in terms of like the font and stuff, I am specific about fonts, but I don't know any fonts off by heart, but I have them saved somewhere. But I just know when I look at it, like with the Truly books, the Truly is, the same, across it, and then the Wanted and the Enough and the Home is a different way. And I think it just kind of, it shows the important part of the title there, and I think that kind of stands out. But yeah, I think fonts can be very important, and there's a lot of different reasons behind it. As someone already mentioned, I think it can do a lot to show what type of book it is as well. Like if you see something written in a certain font, you're like, that's a horror, or the same thing written in a different font, it could be a romance. So I think it can tell you a lot. Like they're all just another way or another tool to give your reader information and get them to want to pick up your book.
Yeah, yeah, for
We
sure.
hope they want to pick up our book.
As long as it's not yellow.
Yeah.
Without reason.
Kelly, how about you? Tell us about fonts, colors. What do you like? All your covers are so different. So I'm interested.
Yeah, they are. And I guess that probably explains my answer, which is that, I don't really have, I don't have anything, I don't think there's anything I dislike, in particular color or particular font, because I feel like that with a cover, it's such a contained image, and there's, and it's potentially your one opportunity to get somebody to pay attention to it, like a thumbnail image connected to a review. I mean, even with reviews, like you're going to oftentimes see that image of the book before you even read the review of it or the blurb. They'll give you some idea of what it's about. So it there's a lot of weight on it to, to function well. And so to me, it's really integrated, like, colors important, fonts important, the layout, where, the scale and size of the font to the image, to all the moving parts that make up the cover, whether it's a really busy cover or a really, Spartan cover. To me, things are almost really equally important, and they're all in the sense that they're all really working together. So to me, what's more important is about the total package. Like, does that font work with that mood that the color's bringing, or does that font work with that image? That kind of thing. So, but if I were an author who were really writing in a fixed genre repeatedly, that I might have a different answer about that.
Yeah.
Really, Nance, I really liked your idea of always having your name in the same font.
Thanks.
I think that's a really great idea.
I do have a shout out to Bold Strokes, though. I don't know that I've ever, with a cover, said I want Mayweather in 14 point, whatever. But Tammy and the other graphic design do a phenomenal job of picking a font that just goes perfectly, and like the kiss on the chef kiss on the cover, it just really ties it together. So I just have to shout out to that staff because they're incredible.
Thank you. That's very nice. I'll pass that along. So you made a good point, I think, about the way that the covers are reduced in size online. Readers are shopping on Amazon or they're reading reviews on Goodreads and they see the cover, but they will often see it quite small. Does that ever impact your decision making when you're looking at images or thinking about what you want on your cover, knowing that quite a number of readers are going to see it at an inch high? Nicole.
You say that again? I have a motorcycle going on behind me.
Rambled. Okay, so online covers are reduced in size. They're usually
Yes.
about an inch high. Does that impact the images that you choose or the decisions that you make?
For me, it doesn't. mine kind of look the same, small or large, because it's usually, again, just, silhouette of someone's back. So that doesn't really affect my covers.
No, okay, fair enough. Does anybody do think about it?
I do.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's kind of in my training, on my professional side of my life to do that. So yeah, I think about how it's going to scale.
Yeah.
I will now.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's
like now I'll consider it.
No, look, I do this for all our covers. Before I even send them to the author, I'll, make them as small as I possibly can and make sure the author name shows up and the title shows up. Because some of them look wonderful when they're large, but they're very complex covers. Maybe there's multiple images. And when you reduce them, they're not so great. We had many years ago, we had a cover draft for a Georgia Beers book that was a woman standing in spotlight. And she had a red dress on and she was beautiful. And the cover was amazing and had like great kind of tone and feeling. And I reduced it and all you saw was red boobs. That's all you saw because she's standing in spotlight and with the way the light was shining. And I had to send it back and say, I'm sorry, we can't use this cover because
That could have been a selling point. I'm just saying it.
Hey,
Look at
yeah.
your market, your target audience.
she was so sad too.
I did see one comment earlier in the chat that, somebody said they're dyslexic. So, the clarity of the font and the text on a cover is really important to them. And I imagine like scaled down, it would intensify that too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So thank you to the viewer who put that in there. And I'm also hearing not quite the same thing, but that Gen Z cannot read cursive font because they've grown up with computers and they type everything and they print when they have to write. And so a lot of authors are trending away from the more handwritten fonts, the more kind of script fonts to help the titles be readable to a generation who didn't learn cursive, believe it or not. All right, so we've talked about how you get to choose images for your books, and I'm interested in how you go about that that process. Like, how do you choose an image? What makes you pick one over the other? Let's talk about that. Kelly, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I do kind of visualize what I think might be good in the cover, or even I think I've even like sketched out some ideas before too, but knowing that Bold Strokes has, am I right? Is it I forget what the stock photos is you have
Deposit.
We do use a couple of different ones. Right now we're using
I can't remember. Anyway, I forget. There's so many, but each of this, for those of you who might not be familiar with like stock photos, they're basically just this giant photo library, not of just photos, but also like vector illustration designs and just, things that, all different kinds of images that designers can use. And it's millions of images. So which is, there's like pros and cons to that, because on one hand it's like, yay, there's all these images, to look at to get inspiration or to pull from and send to, the publisher and say, this is kind of what I'm thinking about, and at the same time, that's great. At the same time, there are so many too. So I think you have to get really good at your search terms, and kind of just drill down and really find those images or illustrations that are matching, with something you have in mind. Or, also too, you may come across something and go, oh, I like that. I didn't realize I liked that, So I think that the use of the stock photos can be useful. And I kind of go back and forth. Like on one hand, I'm thinking about what I'd like to see, but then I'm also relying on that service to help me in that process too.
Yeah, they kind of feed each other. I like that. JJ, you said that you spend a couple days looking at images. That sounds kind of arduous. Tell us.
And then I end up down rabbit holes looking at so many images. Yeah, like at the start, I suppose I didn't know kind of what to expect, and I can get very specific things in my head and then nothing fits it. And then I'm like, I can get frustrated because I'm like, none of these photos look like what I want it to look like. And so I think there's an aspect of trying to let that part go a bit. But then, you know, as Kelly was saying as well, like when you're looking through, you may see things that you didn't expect to like, or you didn't expect to kind of draw you. And you know, again, search terms, it's trying to find the right words to find the right photos, especially if you're trying to look for, you know, two women looking intimate together, you know, and keep the theme of the book. It can be hard to find. So I spend way too much time like scrolling through photos upon photos and trying to find ones I like. But yeah, I think it's interesting to try and see then again if there's other photos within that, you know, with the same models. And you know, I end up down like clicking on one and then going into another one from that and then another one from that, and eventually you get somewhere. But yeah, I think it's, you know, it's interesting. But I've been very, I suppose my first book led on to the others, so they've been kind of themed and stuff. So I think the fourth one that we picked the cover recently for, that was harder because it was outside of these now. So it was something new again and trying to find a different theme or what we were looking for. So I found that harder. And I think Sandy, you found it, or someone found it anyway, and I was like, yeah, that's it. But I couldn't, you know, there was just so many, there was something I wanted and I couldn't kind of get out of that, and needed someone else to give me options to kind of get out of that. So that was helpful.
Yeah, it's always fun when you get the form back and the author's like, oh, well, I couldn't find anything I liked. There's like 8 million, you know, stock images, but I couldn't even find one. So good luck. That's always fun when you get those. Elena, how about you? I think you do choose some images, but not all of them. So tell us about that.
Like I said before, I'm not very artistically minded when it comes to pictures or covers. So I do like to kind of allow the professionals to kind of take the lead on that. But I have like when we did Pack of Our Own, I did give a couple of examples of other covers of other books that I did like and that we could kind of emulate. But I have a couple times found myself on the stock photo site kind of staring for hours trying to find that perfect picture, and just feeling like, I can't find it. I will never find the perfect picture on these stock photo sites. And then it's kind of like, well, I guess I'll just have to make do with this one.
Yeah.
And then give it as an option. It's like, you know, we can possibly use this one in this part of the scene, but I'm not sure if it'll work. Like, I think I gave a option for the third book that we were talking about earlier, but it never made it to the image, and that's okay because the image we have now is excellent. And I'm really glad my suggestion didn't make it to the page.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, I mean, I can't honestly remember exactly what it was that you picked, but sometimes it's just something as simple as the orientation of the image, right? All covers are oriented vertically, and most stock images are oriented horizontally. And sometimes something as small as that makes, you know, an image really difficult to work with. So interesting. All right, who haven't I asked yet? Nance, did I ask you?
Not yet, but
Can't
I
remember.
am.
Okay, go ahead.
I think of keywords for my books, like for the fireflies and starting over, I looked up fireflies and I looked at images based on that and tried to find something there. And for Appalachian Awakening, I searched backpacking and hiking. So that's how I kind of go about diving into the rabbit hole that JJ likes to hang on. And but I start with keywords and then just kind of narrow down my focus that way. But that's helped me find like that perfect Appalachian Awakening. I mean, Alaskan Wedding, Northern Lights, you know, Alaska. So it's very easy sometimes just to get that one keyword, figure out that scene you really want to amplify on your cover and the colors that you want to pop. And so that's kind of how I go about it.
Yeah, I like that. Nicole, do you just type woman walking away into search?
Mostly,
Get an eerie scene,
yes.
fog, women walking away.
but I'm specific. Woman walking away in the fall. Woman walking away in the fog. You
I
know.
like that. Awesome. We are almost out of time. I do want to acknowledge the chat is blowing up. with a discussion about vector covers.
Ah.
Those are the ones that look a little like illustrated, a little cartoonish. We did not intentionally leave out vector covers. Just the authors that were chosen for this panel happened to not have any. They have been trending really heavily over the past couple years. Some people love them, some people hate them. We will give you the cover you love, so it really depends on the author and their choice. I do think they're gonna start trending out more. I think we're gonna see some new emerging different trends in covers coming up over the next couple years. So if you do hate them, don't worry too much. I think they are, perhaps as these things go, have done their dash and are on their way out. That's what I personally hope anyway. There's me, showed my hand. All right, thank you so much to our amazing authors. I think this was a really fun cover panel. I hope you learned something. And yeah, if anyone, ever wants to shoot me or any of our authors some feedback on what they like about their covers or what they want to see, I think that's always very interesting. So please do that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Fun.
Thank you.